Hey guys, what's going on? It's Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. So this is part 2 of our gear testing series. Got cold again. The polar vortex came through New York. So I did another setup. Got a couple different pieces of gear today. In my dream hammock Thunderbird. Last time I used a Sparrow. This is a little bit different configuration. This hammock has an overcover that zippers and meets at the top. So it's a little bit different venting technique where the other hammock had the overcover that vented at the side. So it's recommended to vent this one from the top zippers and leave it open a little bit. So I got about a foot of clearance, and we're just going to leave that open and see if some of the condensation doesn't get out tonight like we had the buildup last time. I have one thermometer saying that the sensor is 0 degrees and that the display is 17 degrees. Oh man, so it's cold. We're doing a different technique tonight also, where we're stacking our quilts. So I have a 40 degree and a 20 degree quilt underneath me, underquilt, and I'm using a sleeping bag actually tonight. I have a 0 degree Western Mountaineering Kodiak. So hopefully this setup keeps us warm. Got a couple other pieces of things, a down jacket, balaclava. I'm happy. I wanted to use the sleeping bag though because I like the fact that it has a hood. You can zipper it closed. So I want to see if that makes our face a little bit warmer. Last time we used the balaclava and that kept us warm, but I think I'm going to use the sleeping bag hood and see how my face deals with that. Same scenario as last time. If I wake up, I'll take some temperature readings. If anything happens during the night, I will be sure to let you guys know. Other than that, let's hope for a good quiet night. See, I got the vent open around the last foot of the hammock's head end. See, it stops right there, runs down. Let me see if I can get some light. Camera. Got that gear sling, all our stuff in it. There's temperature. We got 1 degree outside, 17 degrees in here. I'm not going with the tarp tonight. We're going au natural. See if the Underquilt Protector and the overcover keep us warm. All right, guys. So it's like 2:30 in the morning. I just woke up. I had the hood cinched, so I had the little vent hole. There was a little bit of moisture on the sleeping bag from my breath, but not a lot. There's really not a lot of condensation. There's a little bit on the thermometer, a little bit on the light. It looks like having the overcover open that little bit at the top let all that warm air escape out of it. So it's not holding as much moisture inside as the Sparrow overcover did. So it looks like if you're gonna vent, to have it unzippered. Don't let any of the mesh, don't let any of the overcover material hold in that moisture. The setup's been pretty good. It's been around the same as it was the other night. It's 9 degrees outside and around 20 in here. But you could tell the warmth of stacking the quilts below us and then the 0 degree bag. It's a huge improvement. It's just a lot warmer. So that's good. That's pretty much it. Let's get through the rest of the night. All right. It got chilly as the morning went on. It's 7:15. Oh, what's the thing say? It's 2 degrees outside, 12 in here. Got a little bit more condensation now. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with this condensation stuff. Got a little bit on the sleeping bag. I'm breathing out. Sunrise is in 5 minutes. Gonna watch that and then clean up all this stuff and we'll go and talk about our experience from last night.
Okay, so let's go over the experience that we went through last night. To start off with, temperatures when we first got outside were around 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Throughout the night, they got up to around 8 degrees, and then when we got out this morning around 7:15, they looked like they were around 2. So it was a pretty good temperature to be outside with the setup that we were in. As far as the setup goes, we stacked quilts last night. So I don't have a 0 degree setup. So one technique that you can use is if you have a couple quilts rated at different temperatures, you can literally layer those on top of each other. So the most important thing with that is you want to make sure that the quilt that's on the bottom isn't compressing the quilt that's above it, because you want to give both quilts the ability to expand and get as lofty as they can so that you're gaining the full amount of insulation from both the quilts. So once again, this is an Underquilt Protector from UGQ Zeppelin. And then I have a 20 degree Zeppelin from Underground Quilts on the outside. And then on the inside, I use my Hammock Width 40 degree quilt. If you go on the Enlightened Equipment website, they have a chart that shows different quilts when combined what their theoretical temperature would be. So a 20 degree and a 40 degree theoretically can get you down to around -10. There's other factors that go into that, you know, the efficiency of your setup and those kinds of things, but theoretically you're supposed to be able to get down to -10 degrees. So last night we were at 0. With that, I felt warm. I didn't feel any cold spots. I didn't feel any loss of heat through the bottom part of my installation. So we did a really good job with stacking the quilts together. Another good thing about using an Underquilt Protector is that it seals any gaps that you might have on the head and foot end by the way that it's designed to pull everything up and in. So this is another good reason to use an Underquilt Protector, because you don't have those gaps at the head and foot end of your setup. So that's bottom insulation. And then for our top insulation, I don't have a 0 degree top quilt, but I do have a 0 degree sleeping bag. So I used that last night. This is a Western Mountaineering Kodiak 0 degree bag. So this is a great bag, love it, it's amazing. But anytime that you use a sleeping bag inside of a hammock setup, it gets a little bit tricky with trying to get in, trying to get comfortable in the sleeping bag. You can also choose to just lay the sleeping bag on top of you like a quilt, and that'll do the same thing. I wanted to go with the more traditional way using a sleeping bag because I wanted to use the hood. And when I cinched the hood down, it created a gap, so that way I can get any condensation out through that hole. But I didn't need to use a balaclava. I didn't need to use any face protection because I was getting insulation through the sleeping bag. So that was warm also. Plus we used the water bottle technique where we threw a hot water bottle in, and that kept our setups pretty warm throughout the whole night. So as far as warmth goes, I was 100% warm the entire night. I didn't have any cold spots. I didn't have any issues with my face or any issues with my feet this time. So thumbs up to a good rated quality setup. All right, we'll talk about condensation now, which is an issue that I see. When we were in the setup, we were breathing out of the hole in a sleeping bag, and you're releasing that moisture into the air. I had on this overcover, it would normally go up to the peak, and then they have this vent that's made of mesh on it. I chose to fold it back like this and just leave it open to the outside atmosphere, so that way any moisture that was inside wasn't being held up by this piece of mesh either. When I did the other test on the Sparrow and I had that big opening in the Sparrow's overcover, we had a lot of condensation on the ridgeline. So I figured that having this mesh wasn't going to be enough to get rid of any moisture or get rid of any condensation that we're going to have inside. So I chose to open it up completely and let all that moisture escape. I don't think that it had as much buildup as the Sparrow did by using it like this, but it still did accumulate some condensation on the overcover. So that was an issue for me. It looks like when you're dealing with this type of environment and you're dealing with these kind of temperatures, it's just the nature of the beast. You know, you're going to have to deal with a little bit of condensation. It's just a matter of managing it and making sure that it doesn't get your gear wet. When we went out again at 11 o'clock, a little bit before there, all of the moisture had dissipated back into the environment. So as far as it drying itself out, it seems to do that pretty well. It's just when you're going through it at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's a little bit weird to see all this condensation building up around your sleep system. When I checked the sleeping bag hole, there was a little bit of moisture around the opening, but not anything to be concerned about. I guess, however, I had a position, the air was escaping enough that it was a little wet along the ridge, but it wasn't anything to be concerned about. So that was good to see. Something else that I wanted to bring up was the actual hammock itself. So in one of my other videos, I talk about hammock width when paired with an underquilt, especially with XL fabrics, because the underquilt is cut to a specific width, and I think there's a certain width of a hammock where you're not gaining any benefit by going wider because now the underquilt is pinching you in. So all of that excess material is now just kind of flapping around. It's not really that noticeable when you're just using the hammock body, but I really noticed it when I had the overcover attached, because now all of that excess material is now right in your face and is flapping around on you. You could choose to stake out the hammock and pull all of that away from you, so that's a technique that's available. I didn't do that last night for no other reason than I just didn't feel like it. But having said that, now that we had the condensation buildup on the overcover and it was falling on us a little bit more than I thought it should have been, I had to be a little bit more careful with making sure that I didn't touch the overcover with my setup, because you are now in a closer proximity to hitting that condensation, and I noticed some of it flaking off while I was sleeping. So that's just something else to keep in mind too, that if you do have a wide hammock, it's probably better to stake it out, so that way that material isn't hitting you and that condensation buildup isn't getting on your sleeping stuff. So this is the inside of my setup. I have this gear sling, and that just holds all my knickknacks, all my odds and ends stuff. I had a pair of gloves in there, my sit pad, a couple extra batteries, and then I put the lantern right here. I have a hang time hook that I attach the GoPro to do the filming with, and then this thermometer that I have, it's an Accurite. It has a sensor on it, so I was able to run that down the ridgeline and out into the outside temperature. So when we went out for the night, the only thing that I brought out with me to sleep in were a pair of wool socks, a pair of heavyweight synthetic bottoms instead of the lightweight or medium weights that we used last time, and then it's like a heavyweight base layer, but I really like this shirt because it has a Napoleon pocket. And I like keeping everything right at my chest. Like I keep my phone in there, my headphones. So having that pocket makes stuff more easily accessible. I did bring a down jacket too. This is an EMS Featherlight jacket, I think it's called. It's got a hood on it. I just wanted something with the hood. My Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer doesn't have a hood, so I wanted to try this out if I needed it. One other thing that I didn't use last night was a tarp. I had the setup just exposed to the elements. It wasn't too windy. A little bit throughout the night there was some wind. The Underquilt Protector and the overcover seemed to do a pretty good job at handling any wind. I really didn't notice it, so that was good to see. Not having the tarp gave me the ability to look out and see the stars and see the moon. It was a super moon last night, so that was pretty cool. As of now, we've gotten 2 cold weather tests done. We got a chance to see how both gear worked in similar temperatures. The 20-degree setup that we used last time I felt comfortable, I felt safe, I felt protected, but I was right on that teetering point where it was pushed past its limits. Using this setup, I felt warm the whole night. I didn't feel any cold spots. I didn't feel like the system was getting pushed past its limit. So that was really good to see. If you have any questions or concerns that you want to bring up, please feel free to comment in the section below. Looking forward to get out there again and trying another test. But until then, Happy New Year, Happy 2018, and get out there and hang.